McLaren 720S Review. What is it? To get an idea of how far McLaren has come with the new 720S, just get its engineers onto the subject of what's left, how they'll possibly outdo this car when the time comes. That, they'll say with a sigh, is the question. When they introduced the 675LT, even the 650S, they already knew this was coming. They knew what the 720S, P14, in McLaren's development speak, would be able to do, and they knew how much further ahead of both the 650 and 675 it was, in all areas. They put so much into the 720S that now they've got nothing left in the tank. This car, make no mistake, feels a generation and a half on from a 650S. It's so fast, so usable and so controllable that it might, just might, be the best supercar on the planet. So, 720S. McLaren's naming structure is now familiar, and it won't be the only familiar thing about this car if you follow sports cars. Because it's both a supercar and a McLaren, it comes with certain engineering characteristics. It's mid-engined and rear-wheel drive and has a twin-turbocharged V8 engine. It has a carbon fiber tub, albeit a new one, whose integrity now stretches over the occupants' heads, increasing rigidity and, because it removes steel from the top of the structure, the windscreen surround, for example, it's now 18 kilograms lighter than before and lowers the center of gravity. In front of it is double wishbone suspension, ditto at the rear. That's linked front to back and side to side by McLaren's hydraulically connected damper system, proactive chassis control too, which is improved with the addition of new sensors but still baffles the heck out of mutton-headed old mugwumps like your correspondent. In short, it gives stiffness in roll conditions and compliance on rough roads, and it negates the need for anti-roll bars. If McLaren's Super Series cars to date have had anything in common, MP412C, 12C, 650S and 675LT, it's that their ride quality had been uncommonly good. What's it like? That cabin, then, cramped, as a result of the aero changes outside? Not a bit of it. You do sit closer to your passenger, but the lower sills and the doors, which now hinge to all but vertical and take up a foot less width in the process, make getting in and out a fair bit easier, and with less head bashing. But the changes to the tub mean that the A-pillars are particularly thin, and left unadorned by trim, while thin carbon fiber beams crisscross the original Honda NSX-ish, Pagani's Honda-ish looking occupant compartment, with glass panels everywhere making it a doddle to see out of. Not since the first NSX or, say, Ferrari 355 has a full-blown mid-engine supercar been so easy to see out of. That airiness takes away any sensation that you might feel remotely cramped in here, and the rest of the cabin is a lot more accommodating. The driving position remains bang on as usual, dead straight, with one of the most adjustable steering wheels in motordom, connected to a rack that is still hydraulically assisted, incidentally. Either foot will do for the centrally mounted brake pedal, and there's a new pop-out instrument binnacle, a bit unnecessary, and a revised central stack, on which lives a new touchscreen controller. It's far easier to use than the old Irish system, plus McLaren's driving controls as usual, which remain slightly more complicated than they strictly need to be. Still, it's a nice place to be, with better materials. The stitching on the Alcantara on this pre-production car could be better in a couple of places, but on full production McLarens, it usually is. The point is, though, that the 720S is meant to be more broadly capable than the 650S. Better on the road and better on a track, although not quite as extreme as a 675LT when it comes to the latter. The 720S certainly rides well enough. It takes a certain confidence to hand a 710 bhp supercar to a bunch of journalists who have never sat in it before and send them straight out into Monday morning Rome traffic. But there you go. Visibility is terrific. The ride is compliant. The dampers still have 3 settings: Comfort, Sport and Track, with Comfort replacing Normal, because there's nothing normal about McLaren, don't you know, and you'll leave them in Comfort most of the time. The motor and gearbox have the same 3 settings: 2, selected independently from the chassis ones. In town, the McLaren's engine doesn't shout loudly at you, even though our test car was one of the more racy specs, with a sports exhaust and also standard-sized fixed back bucket seats. You can get wider ones, too. Anyway, the engine. Not loud, not around town, at any rate. It's powerful sounding, sure, but there isn't anything like the obvious grumble of an AMG V8 or the hollow boop of something from Ferrari. But it does seem to shrink around you pretty quickly, the 720S. Daft, really. How we sometimes sit and wonder, how much power is too much? Then you get into 218,000 pounds supercurrent threaded through traffic and out beyond the suburbs onto crummy roads between fields, up and down gentle hills, and realize that it's as easy to drive as a mid-level family saloon. Only it's quite a lot faster when you want it to be, obviously. There's so much torque, with little noticeable lag, that it becomes second nature and an utter doddle to drive the 720S around in relatively high gears on the road, surfing the mid-range when you need an overtake, or three at once, enjoying the suppleness of the ride, which combines sweetly with the pure, oily slickness of the steering, which, at 2.5 turns between locks, is wonderfully geared and weighted, takes on reassuring mid-corner weight and offers relatively uncorrupted road feel, like little else in this class.